The storm raged outside the shelter. The howling wind and thick snow seemed like they were trying to swallow everything in their path, but inside, there was a glimmer of warmth. It was an ordinary day at the shelter, until she arrived. A small, scruffy cat, appeared out of nowhere, limping weakly toward the door. She had clearly been on the run for days, her fur matted with snow and dirt, and her body thin from hunger. Her eyes, though, were full of fire. Despite her condition, there was a fierce determination in her gaze. She wasn't just any stray, was a mother, already carrying the weight of the future in her belly. As soon as the shelter workers saw her, they rushed to open the door. "Poor thing, Sarah," the shelter volunteer muttered, watching as the cat stumbled inside. Her fur was damp, and her paws left a trail of wet prints on the floor, but she didn't seem to care. She was desperate for shelter, for safety. She immediately found a corner and curled up in it, her eyes darting around the room nervously. She wasn't sure if she could trust these humans, but she had nowhere else to go. "We need to get her something to eat," said Mark, another volunteer, looking at her concernedly. "She's clearly been through a lot." "Yes, Sarah," and nodded. "But we also need to make sure she's okay. She's so thin, and she's pregnant." The workers exchanged worried glances, wondering just how much this poor cat had been through. They quickly prepared a small bed for her in a quiet corner of the shelter, far from the other animals. Mr. Pesto reluctantly allowed them to help, her eyes flicking nervously as they laid down a soft blanket for her. "She looks like she needs a lot of rest," Sarah said gently, watching the cat settle into the corner. "Let's give her some time." The shelter was a small one, tucked away on the edge of town, and the volunteers did their best to care for the animals, but they didn't have many resources. They always tried to keep hope, though, that each animal that came through the door could have a new chance. For now, though, all they could offer Mr. Pesto was comfort. As the shelter workers quietly went about their duties, a sense of calm washed over the room. Mr. Pesto's breathing slowed, and for the first time since she had arrived, she allowed herself to rest, her belly rising and falling gently. There was a flicker of peace in her eyes, a small hope that maybe, just maybe, she had found a safe place for herself and her unborn kittens. "I'm not sure what will happen," Mark said softly to Sarah, glancing back at Mr. Pesto. "But I have a feeling she's special. Maybe this will be the start of something good." Sarah smiled, her heart warming at the thought. She knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy for the little cat, but something about her, something in her eyes, Sarah, that Mr. Pesto wasn't just any stray. She was a survivor. And deep down, Sarah felt it too. This tiny, battered cat, seeking refuge in the storm, might just be the one to change everything. For now, the shelter was quiet. The storm raged on outside, but inside, there was the faintest spark of hope. Mr. Pesto had only been in the shelter for a few days, but the storm that had brought her in seemed like it had passed. The snow had stopped, and the volunteers thought they could finally breathe easy. Little did they know, a new storm was about to begin, one that would change everything. It was late at night when the first sign of trouble came. Sarah, checking on the pregnant cat, noticed Mr. Pesto pacing restlessly around her small bed. She was panting, her eyes wide with unease. "Looks like it's happening," Sarah whispered to herself, walking quickly to the back of the shelter where the other volunteers were finishing up their shift. "Mark, come quick, she's going into labor." Mark hurried over, and the two of them carefully watched over Mr. Pesto, who was now curling herself up, clearly in discomfort. Her belly tightened, and then, with a soft cry, the first kitten arrived. "Good girl, Mr. Pesto," Sarah said softly, her heart swelling with pride for the brave cat. She wiped away a tear, then looked to Mark. 5 healthy kittens. She's doing great." Mark nodded, relieved. "I can't believe how strong she is. Look at her, so calm even with the pain." But then, as the last of the kittens emerged, something caught Sarah's eye. One of them was different, smaller than the others, and more fragile. She picked it up gently, her eyes widening as she noticed its fur. "Mark, look at this one," she said, her voice tinged with worry. Mark stepped over, his brow furrowed. As he examined the tiny kitten, its fur wasn't like the others. It was wavy, almost curly, catching the dim light in odd shimmering patterns. Unlike its siblings, whose coats were fluffy and soft, this kitten looked unusual. "Is something wrong with it?" Mark asked, his voice hesitant. "I don't know," Sarah replied, her voice filled with uncertainty. "But it doesn't look like the others." They both watched in silence as Mr. Pesto began to lick and nuzzle her newborns. Despite the strange appearance of the smaller kitten, she was as devoted as ever, cleaning each of her babies, one by one. It was clear she was a loving and attentive mother. The volunteers shared a look. There was concern in their eyes, but also something else, curiosity. What had they just witnessed? The kitten's coat was unlike anything they had ever seen before. "It's beautiful, but strange," Sarah said quietly, her voice filled with wonder. "I hope she's okay." "Me too," Mark replied, glancing nervously at the tiny kitten. "She seems healthy, but we'll need to keep an eye on her." Over the next few days, the mystery of the little kitten deepened. As the others grew fluffier and more playful, the strange kitten's fur continued to develop into tight, wavy curls. It was clear something special was happening. That kitten was healthy, but its coat was getting more and more distinct. "Look at her fur," Sarah remarked one morning as she checked on the kittens. "It's like she's got poodle fur or something. I've never seen a cat like this before," Mark replied, still staring at the kitten in awe. "Is this normal?" Sarah shook her head. "No, this is definitely not normal." Despite their growing concern, the staff couldn't help but admire the little kitten. She was adorable, in her own strange way. Her unique fur gave her a charm that none of the others could match. And yet, with each passing day, they wondered more and more if something was wrong, or if they were witnessing the birth of something extraordinary. As Miss DePesto continued to care for her kittens, one thing was clear: whatever was happening with the tiny kitten, she was loved and cared for, just like the others. And, as Sarah glanced at the tiny creature, she couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. Something told her this kitten was special, something that would change everything, but what exactly remained to be seen. Weeks had passed since the unusual birth, and the shelter had settled into a quiet routine. But something about the smallest kitten, the one they had started calling Curly, just wasn't right. As the days went on, Curly's siblings grew, their coats becoming fluffy and full like any other kittens. They ran and played, chasing their mother's tail and tumbling over each other in little, joyful piles. But Curly, she was different. Her coat was wavy and tight, the fur curling in odd directions, almost like poodle fur. Her whiskers twisted and curled too, giving her face a look of constant surprise. It wasn't just a small quirk. It was strange. And with each passing day, it became more and more pronounced. Mark and Sarah, who had grown very attached to the kittens, exchanged uneasy glances whenever they checked on Curly. "Do you think something's wrong with her?" Sarah asked one morning as she watched Curly sitting apart from the other kittens. She couldn't help but notice the way the little kitten's fur shimmered in the sunlight, the curls catching the light in an almost unnatural way. "I don't know," Mark answered, scratching his head. "She seems healthy enough, but her fur... it's not normal. It's like nothing I've ever seen before." The two stood there, watching as Curly awkwardly tried to play with one of her siblings, but no matter how hard she tried, the other kittens, it seemed to avoid her, as if they could sense she was different too. Her curly coat made it harder for her to keep up with the others, and she ended up sitting alone, watching them play. "I'm getting worried," Sarah said quietly. "She's just... so different. I don't know if this is normal. Should we get a vet to check on her?" Mark hesitated, but the concern in Sarah's voice was too much to ignore. "Maybe you're right. Let's take her to Dr. Matthews. If nothing else, we'll get some peace of mind." Later that day, they packed up the little kitten and took her to the local vet, Dr. Matthews, who had seen his fair share of strange cases over the years. But even he wasn't prepared for what he saw when Curly was placed on the examination table. "She's definitely unique," Dr. Matthews said, his brow furrowed as he carefully examined the kitten. He gently ran his fingers through her curly fur, his eyes widening with each passing moment. "I've never seen a cat with fur like this before," he admitted, looking up at Mark and Sarah. "It's not a common genetic trait. It's like her fur is almost... poodle-like." Sarah's heart sank. "So is there something wrong with her? Is she sick?" Dr. Matthews sighed, his expression thoughtful. "Well, the good news is that she is healthy, her weight is good, and her body temperature is normal. There's nothing wrong physically, but her coat is a mystery." Mark and Sarah exchanged glances, relief mixed with confusion. "So, you think she's okay?" Mark asked, unsure whether to feel reassured. "For now, yes," Dr. Matthews replied. "She's healthy, but it's hard to say what this could mean in the long term. We'll have to keep an eye on her as she grows." They left the vet's office that day with no real answers, just more questions. Curly's future remained uncertain, but for now, she was fine. Still, there was a lingering feeling in the back of Sarah's mind, a worry that maybe things wouldn't always be so simple. As the days passed, the mystery surrounding Curly only deepened. She was growing, yes, but in ways the shelter staff couldn't explain. There was no sign of illness, but there was also no sign of anything normal. And as much as they wanted to believe she was just an extraordinary kitten, there was an unshakable fear that something wasn't quite right. But despite all the uncertainty, one thing remained clear: Miss DePesto, Curly's mother, loved her just as much as her other kittens. She didn't care that Curly was different. She cleaned her with the same care and tenderness, nuzzling her little one and keeping her close. Curly might have been different, but to her, she was perfect. And that was enough for now. The shelter had seen its fair share of animals come and go, but none quite like Curly. The little kitten's strange wavy coat and curly whiskers had kept everyone on edge. The staff couldn't stop watching her, still unsure of what to make of her odd appearance after the vet visit. Sarah and Mark had hoped that maybe, just maybe, the mystery would be solved. But the results brought more relief than answers. "She's perfectly healthy," Dr. Matthews had said, gently putting Curly back in the soft bed. "Nothing wrong with her physically, it's just... her coat. We'll just have to wait and see how she grows." That should have been reassuring, but it only made the uncertainty feel more pressing. Sarah looked down at Curly, her fur shining in the soft light of the shelter. She's so different, she murmured. I just wish we knew what to do. I know, Mark replied, scratching his head. People are starting to notice her. Everyone's talking about the kitten with the poodle-like fur. I think they're afraid to adopt her. They don't know how to take care of her. What if she's too much of a challenge? Sarah sighed, her heart heavy. I just don't want her to be left behind. She deserves a family. Days went by, and the rest of Mr. Pesto's kittens were adopted quickly. Each one found a loving home, leaving Curly behind, still curled up in the same spot, her odd fur an unanswered question. Visitors came to see her, drawn by her unusual appearance, but when they saw her, their excitement faded into uncertainty. I love her look, but what if her fur becomes too much to handle? One visitor had asked, running a hand through her soft, wavy fur. I've never seen a cat like this before. What if it's a problem later? I'm just not sure, another visitor said, shaking their head. She's adorable, but what would we do with her hair? It's not like other cats. As the weeks passed, more and more people came and went, intrigued by Curly but never taking her home. She was left behind, still a mystery. Then, one afternoon, a new face arrived. Jerry Newman, a well-known Persian cat breeder, had heard about the unusual kitten from a friend. Intrigued, she visited the shelter, hoping to meet the special kitten for herself. She's incredible, Jerry whispered, crouching down to get a better look at Curly. I've never seen anything quite like her. Sarah watched as Jerry gently reached out to touch Curly's curly coat. I'm not sure what it is, Jerry said, her voice filled with awe, but there's something special about this kitten. Something that could change everything. Curly blinked up at Jerry with those wide, curious eyes. To Sarah's surprise, the two seemed to connect immediately. Jerry smiled and scratched under Curly's chin. I'd love to take her. I think I can help her find her place in the world. And I know exactly what to do with a coat like that. The shelter workers exchanged glances, relief washing over them. Finally, there was hope. Jerry could see the potential in Curly. She wasn't just an oddball kitten. She was a diamond in the rough. I'm going to bring her into my breeding program, Jerry explained, standing up. I've had Persian cats with unique fur, but this is something different. She could be the start of something new, something amazing. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. She had grown so attached to the little kitten, and the thought of letting her go was bittersweet. But she also knew this could be the chance Curly needed to thrive. I think this is her future, Mark said quietly. She's finally found someone who understands her. As Jerry walked away with Curly in her arms, Sarah felt a spark of hope she hadn't known she needed. Curly might have been different, but maybe that was exactly what she needed to find her place in the world for the first time in a long while. Sarah allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, this little kitten had a future beyond the shelter walls. The day Jerry Newman stepped into the shelter, there was something different in the air. The quiet murmur of the other animals, the soft patter of paws on the floor all seemed to fade when she walked toward Curly's enclosure. Jerry had heard about the kitten with the curly fur, and now she was about to meet her in person. The moment she saw Curly, she stopped. Her heart skipped a beat. There she was, tiny, delicate, and unmistakably unique. Jerry knelt down, her eyes wide with awe. She's even more beautiful than I imagined, Jerry whispered to herself. Curly looked up at her, her curly whiskers twitching, her wavy fur catching the light in a mesmerizing way. She had a look of innocence and curiosity in her big, round eyes. It was clear that this kitten was special, but Jerry wasn't sure yet just how much. Sarah, who had been watching quietly from the side, approached her. She's got the most unusual fur, doesn't she? I've never seen anything like it, Jerry replied, reaching out to gently pet Curly's back. It's like her fur is alive. It moves in ways I can't explain. Curly seemed to relax under Jerry's touch, purring softly. Sarah smiled, watching them interact. She's been here for weeks and no one has adopted her. We were hoping someone would see how special she is. Jerry nodded, her eyes never leaving Curly. I can see that, and I think I can help her. I've worked with rare breeds before, and I'm very interested in her genetics. There's something about her that makes me believe she could be the start of something remarkable. Sarah's heart pounded as Jerry spoke. It was clear that Jerry saw potential in Curly, something the shelter staff had hoped for but hadn't dared to dream about. You really think she's worth trying to breed? Sarah asked, a mix of curiosity and hesitation in her voice. I do, Jerry said with a gentle smile. I think she could be the foundation for a new breed. But there's a lot we don't know yet. I'd like to bring her into my program and see what happens. The shelter workers exchanged a glance. It was hard to say goodbye, but this could be the opportunity Curly had been waiting for. Do you think she'll be all right? Mark asked, his voice quiet. She's had such a rough start. She'll be in good hands, Jerry reassured him. I'll make sure she's treated with the utmost care. With a heavy heart, Sarah watched as Jerry carefully picked Curly up. The little kitten mewed softly, looking back at the shelter workers with those big, trusting eyes. It was as if she knew she was going to a new chapter in her life, one that might hold the answers to all the questions they had about her. We'll miss you, Curly, Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. "But I know you're going to do great things." Jerry gently cradled Curly in her arms, her smile full of hope. "Don't worry, she's going to have an amazing future ahead of her." As Jerry walked out of the shelter, Curly in her arms, Sarah and Mark stood together, silently, watching. There was a sense of sadness, but also relief. Curly had found someone who believed in her. For the first time, they allowed themselves to believe in her future too. Jerry took Curly home, where she would begin a new journey, a journey of discovery. And though the shelter workers would never forget this strange little kitten with the curly fur, they knew she was in good hands, destined for something truly extraordinary. Curly's arrival at Jerry Newman's home was the start of something new, but it wasn't without its challenges. Jerry had seen many unusual cats in her time as a breeder, but nothing like Curly. Her wild, wavy coat and stubborn independence made her a mystery. Jerry's first step was clear: introduce Curly to a Persian cat for breeding, hoping the result would carry the extraordinary curly fur to future generations. The plan, however, didn't go smoothly. Curly wasn't exactly eager to meet her new companion, a calm Persian cat named Milo. The two cats didn't quite click. "She's not having it," Jerry muttered to herself, watching Curly swat at Milo as he tried to approach. "Come on, girl, play nice." Milo, ever the patient one, simply stepped back and gave Curly space, but it was clear she wasn't ready for him yet. Her independence, which had made her so unique, now felt like a barrier. "She's got a lot of spunk for such a little cat," Jerry said, a small laugh escaping her lips as Curly marched around the room, seemingly in charge. "Milo, you've got your work cut out for you." Days passed, and it seemed like progress was slow. Curly was wild, energetic, and determined to do things her own way. She didn't care about the gentle nature of Milo, and Jerry's hopes of them becoming a perfect pair seemed to fade. "I don't know if this is going to work," Jerry said one evening, watching Curly and Milo keep their distance. "She's so independent. It's like she doesn't want to be part of this whole breeding plan." But Jerry wasn't the type to give up easily. Over time she noticed something. Curly, despite her initial resistance, was beginning to form a bond with Milo. She wasn't as hostile anymore. Instead, she started following him around, purring softly, even curling up beside him during nap time. "I think she's warming up to him," Jerry said with a hopeful smile, observing them cuddle together. "This is the beginning. I just need patience." As weeks passed, the bond between Curly and Milo grew stronger. She still had her mischievous moments, darting around and causing a little chaos, but she was becoming a beloved member of Jerry's household. However, the challenges were far from over. Jerry worked tirelessly, carefully monitoring the breeding process, making sure Curly and Milo were comfortable with each other. She knew that the stakes were high. Curly's unique genetic trait could either be passed on or fade away, leaving her with just a normal litter. The question was, would Curly's curly fur continue in her offspring, or would it prove to be a fluke? One night, Jerry sat down with a notepad, jotting down thoughts on Curly's genetics. She was deep in thought, her mind spinning with possibilities. "I have to understand her genetics better," she said aloud, determination in her voice. This could be the beginning of something amazing, or it could all fall apart. As Jerry continued her work, the tension in the air grew. Each day felt like a step towards something groundbreaking, but the uncertainty of it all kept her on edge. Would Curly's fur be passed on? Could her unique trait define a whole new breed of cats? For now, all Jerry could do was wait and see. But she wasn't just waiting for results. She was watching Curly grow into a beloved, spirited member of her family, one who had already captured Jerry's heart. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough to keep going. The day Curly gave birth was nothing short of miraculous. Jerry had waited for this moment with anticipation, but even she couldn't have prepared for the whirlwind that followed. Curly, ever the independent spirit, didn't need much help. She took to motherhood with a quiet strength, instinctively, curling around her new kittens. When the first tiny kitten was born, its fur was immediately recognizable: Curly, just like Curly's. Jerry couldn't believe her eyes. "This is it," she whispered to herself. "It's really happening." The next few hours brought the rest of the litter into the world, 6 healthy kittens in total. 3 of them, just like their mother, had the same curly fur, while the other 3 had straight, soft coats. Jerry was ecstatic. This was the breakthrough she had been waiting for. "Look at them," Jerry marveled as she gently picked up one of the curly-haired kittens. "This is proof. The curly fur gene is dominant. It's going to be passed down." She carefully placed the kitten back next to its mother. Curly, exhausted but content, purred as she nursed her babies. Jerry's heart swelled with pride. She had done it. The first step in creating a new breed, the Selkirk Rex, had been achieved. Over the next few days, the excitement in Jerry's household was palpable. Curly's kittens were adorable, with their unique curls and tiny mews. People from all around the neighborhood came to visit, marveling at the kittens. They were everything Jerry had hoped for and more, but with the joy came new challenges. The curly-haired kittens, while healthy, required more care and attention than the others. Their coats, though beautiful, needed constant grooming to keep them from becoming matted. Jerry found herself spending long hours brushing them, making sure their fur stayed as perfect as possible. "It's a lot of work," Jerry admitted one evening, wiping the sweat from her brow. "But I'll do whatever it takes to make sure they're healthy." However, it wasn't just the curly-haired kittens that needed special care. Some of the others, with straight fur, were prone to illnesses. Jerry found herself rushing between the kittens, making sure each one received the attention it needed. "There's a lot riding on this," she said quietly, as she checked the temperature of one of the straight-haired kittens. "I can't let them down. I need them to be healthy, all of them." As Jerry worked tirelessly, the stakes grew higher. The birth of the kittens had been a triumph, but it also came with a heavy responsibility. She wasn't just a breeder anymore, she was the keeper of something new, something rare. The Selkirk Rex was taking shape, but it wasn't without its obstacles. Despite the challenges, Jerry never gave up. She balanced her love for the breed with the practicalities of caring for her new family. There were long nights, moments of doubt, but through it all, Jerry knew one thing for sure. These kittens, these extraordinary little creatures, were worth every bit of effort. As she watched Curly curl up beside her babies, her heart was full. The journey was just beginning, and though there were still many hurdles ahead, Jerry had a newfound hope for the future. The Selkirk Rex had arrived, and it was only the beginning of something truly remarkable. The Selkirk Rex breed was starting to take shape. Curly's kittens had grown into playful, curious little cats, each with their own unique personality. But as the breed grew, so did the complications. The thick, curly fur that had made the kittens so special also came with a lot of responsibility. Grooming became a full-time job. "I never thought it would be this much work," Jerry sighed one evening, brushing out a curly-haired kitten's fur. "Their coats need constant care or they get tangled." It's exhausting, but it wasn't just the grooming. The excitement around the breed also brought criticism. As the Selkirk Rex began to catch the attention of breeders and cat lovers, Jerry found herself facing harsh judgment. "I don't know about this, Jerry," one breeder said at a recent meeting. "Introducing a new breed so quickly, it feels risky. What's the long-term impact? Are we messing with nature?" The questions started to pile up. Was she doing the right thing? Was she playing with genetics too carelessly? Jerry had never been one to back down, but the criticism began to take a toll. She had always believed in the potential of the Selkirk Rex, but now doubts clouded her mind. "I just wanted to help them," Jerry muttered to herself one evening as she sat on the couch, Curly curled up beside her. "I thought this could be something beautiful, but now I'm not so sure." Curly, now older and more relaxed, stretched out across Jerry's lap, her curly fur soft beneath her fingers. Looking down at her, Jerry realized how much the little cat had changed her life. What started as a simple rescue had turned into something far bigger and far more complicated than she had ever imagined. "You've been through so much, haven't you, girl?" Jerry said softly, running her hand through Curly's fur. "I didn't know it would be like this, but somehow, I don't think I could walk away from this now." The emotional strain of the journey was becoming harder to ignore. Jerry had devoted so much of herself to the Selkirk Rex, to the idea of creating something new, but now, with the doubts creeping in and the weight of responsibility bearing down on her, she wasn't sure where to go from here. Her thoughts were interrupted by a phone call. It was another breeder, one who had been watching Jerry's work from afar. "Jerry," the voice on the other end said, "we've been hearing some concerns about your breeding program. People are starting to question whether this is ethical. I think you need to think carefully about your next steps." Jerry's grip tightened on the phone. She knew the criticism was coming, but hearing it made it feel real. "I'm doing what I think is right," she said, her voice steady but laced with frustration. "I believe in these cats. And I believe in Curly. I'm not just making them for profit. I'm trying to create something that has meaning. Just be careful," the breeder warned, "because not everyone sees it the same way." The phone call ended, leaving Jerry to sit in the silence of her thoughts. She glanced down at Curly, who looked up at her with those wide, trusting eyes. It was as if the cat could sense her turmoil, and in that moment, Jerry knew what she had to do. "I can't stop now," Jerry whispered, her voice soft but full of resolve. "This is more than just a breeding program. This is my journey to—" Curly nuzzled her hand, purring contentedly, and Jerry smiled. The road ahead would be hard, and the challenges would only grow. But she knew one thing for sure. Curly had changed her life in ways she couldn't have imagined, and she wasn't about to let that go. The crossroads had come, but Jerry had made her choice. She would keep going. Jerry sat in her quiet office, the papers before her blurring as she read the latest report. Her heart sank. After years of careful breeding, some of the Selkirk Rex cats were showing signs of polycystic kidney disease. The very issue she had worked so hard to avoid had found its way into the bloodline. "This can't be happening," Jerry whispered, rubbing her eyes in frustration. She had always believed in the importance of responsible breeding, always striving to avoid health problems that would hurt the breed. Yet here she was, facing the very nightmare she feared. One of the kittens, now an adult, was showing the first signs of the disease. Jerry had noticed the symptoms early: weight loss, lethargy, and a lack of appetite. She had taken the cat to the vet, where her worst fears were confirmed. "We've been so careful," Jerry said aloud to herself, staring at the empty chair across from her. "I never thought this would happen." But Jerry wasn't the type to give up. She knew that the path ahead would be difficult, but she couldn't just walk away. The legacy of the Selkirk Rex and Curly, the cat who had started it all, was too important to her. "Curly, you didn't ask for this," Jerry murmured, glancing at the old picture of Curly on her desk. "You just wanted a home. Now look what you've given the world." The emotional toll of breeding for health, beauty, and temperament weighed heavily on Jerry, but she knew she couldn't let this setback define the breed. With her determination burning stronger than ever, she rolled up her sleeves and set to work. "I'm going to fix this," she said firmly, her voice a whisper of resolve. "I'll make sure the Selkirk Rex stays strong. They deserve that." Over the coming months, Jerry worked tirelessly, consulting with veterinarians and other breeders. She made adjustments to the breeding program, carefully selecting cats that showed no signs of illness. Despite the rising tension and fear of losing everything she had worked for, Jerry refused to give up. Her love for the breed, for the kittens that had captured her heart, was unshakable. As Jerry worked to secure the future of the Selkirk Rex, Curly's role in the breed grew even more significant. The cat who had started it all was now a symbol of perseverance and strength. She was the mother of a new generation, and Jerry made sure to honor her by continuing to breed only the healthiest cats. "You started all of this, Curly," Jerry said one day, sitting next to her, "and no matter how tough it gets, I won't stop. We'll keep going. For you, for them." The stakes were higher than ever, but Jerry knew that she was not alone. Curly, her first and most beloved cat, had given her a legacy to fight for, and no matter what challenges lay ahead, Jerry was determined to see it through. The future of the Selkirk Rex depended on it. Through the trials, Jerry had learned that every step forward came with its own set of challenges, but she refused to back down. The legacy of the Selkirk Rex and Curly would continue, no matter the obstacles, and Jerry would make sure of it. Years had passed since Curly first entered Jerry's life, and the Selkirk Rex breed had grown far beyond what Jerry had ever imagined. What had started as a small experiment had turned into a beloved breed, cherished by cat lovers all over the world. Jerry had faced countless challenges, health scares, doubts from other breeders, and the weight of responsibility, but through it all, the Selkirk Rex had endured. One evening, as Jerry sat quietly in her living room, she watched Curly, now older and slower, curled up beside her kittens. The curly-haired matriarch of the breed still had a sparkle in her eyes, but Jerry could see the signs of age. It was clear that the journey they'd shared had left its mark on both of them. "I never imagined it would be like this," Jerry said softly, gazing at Curly. "I just wanted to help, to give you a chance, and now look at this." Curly, though tired, looked up at Jerry with those familiar eyes, her purring steady and comforting. It was hard to believe that this was the same little kitten who had been abandoned in that shelter all those years ago, the one who had started it all. As the years went by, Jerry had seen the Selkirk Rex thrive. Breeders around the world were embracing the unique Curly coat, and the breed was winning awards at cat shows. Jerry felt immense pride in the legacy she had helped create, but also a deep sense of sadness that the cat who had started it all was growing older. One afternoon, Jerry sat by Curly as she rested, surrounded by her grown kittens. The house felt quiet, peaceful, but there was an unspoken weight in the air. "I don't know how to let go," Jerry whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "You've been with me every step of the way. Without you, none of this would have happened." As if sensing the sadness in Jerry's voice, Curly gave a soft meow and nudged her gently with her paw. The connection between them was undeniable. Curly had always been more than just a cat. She was family. Days passed, and the inevitable moment came. Curly, surrounded by the people who had loved her, passed away peacefully in her sleep. Jerry held her in her arms, her heart heavy with grief but filled with gratitude. "Thank you," Jerry whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you for everything, Curly." It was a bittersweet moment, a mixture of triumph and sorrow. Curly had left behind a legacy that would continue for generations to come, and Jerry knew that the Selkirk Rex breed would forever carry a piece of her spirit. Though Jerry was heartbroken, she also knew that Curly's gift to the world had changed everything. The breed was healthy, loved, and thriving. Curly's influence had touched countless lives, and her descendants would continue to bring joy to people around the globe. Jerry reflected on their journey, how it had started with a stray cat, abandoned and alone, and how it had grown into something beautiful and life-changing. The road had been difficult, but it had been worth it. Curly had been more than just the mother of a new breed. She had been a teacher, a guide, and a friend. And though Jerry would miss her deeply, she knew that Curly's legacy would live on in every curl of a Selkirk Rex's fur, in every happy home where a curly-haired cat was loved and cherished. The journey was over, but the gift Curly had given the world would continue, forever changing the world of cat breeding and Jerry's heart for the rest of her life.